This to make it 28-3. Arthur Blank loving it. Up by 25. Toss to White. He's in. What a comeback.
All right, welcome to a very special edition of the 28-3 podcast. Boys, we are celebrating.
We are. Can't believe they finally did it, but the Saints...
Actually, hold on.
Gayle.
Before you get too far.
Oh, God. Would you look at that? Max, come on.
Look at that.
Darren Rizzi said it's not a day for celebration.
It is a day for celebration.
Look at this, guys.
Oh, we are in business.
Darren Rizzi does not mean that either.
Yeah.
It's the biggest moment of his life.
Indeed.
What happens if they win?
He played it politically correct.
Yes, he did. Except when he said he was responsible for in-game calls already.
He could have clarified that. Like, how much in-game management are you responsible for? Like, decisions to go for it, not go for it?
Some things you could keep to yourself, though.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at, but it's like, keep it to yourself. Don't
Yeah.
publicize that you had a hand in not going for it on fourth and like 2 inches.
I don't know that that's his call. I think he's talking more timeouts and challenges.
Which also hasn't been great. But all challenges have been pretty good, but timeouts not so great. In that game, 2 bad timeouts.
There we go. Well, the question is he just going to DA and saying, hey, I think we should do this, and it puts it in DA's hands?
It's DA's fault at the end of the day.
There we go.
It's his call at the end of the day. You're the head coach. It's your call. Even if he is the one responsible for it, that's DA's decision to let him be responsible for it. It's on DA regardless. Not going for it, we all got in a back and forth kind of disagreement earlier in the year when I felt we were an inferior team and we kept going for it on fourth down when we were missing all the linemen. And I'm like, this unadulterated aggression when you're at a disadvantage and not able to run the ball. Yeah. And then we don't do it when we are dominating running the ball the entire game. Yeah, and we decide not to. So we completely flip what we've been doing all year in the crucial spot. When you're playing far better than we were playing in those games when we went for it.
Because you also had momentum in those drives, too.
Hold on. Cheers. DA, get the fuck out of here. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
But Duncan wants him in the Hall of Fame, so here's to that.
Yeah. Cheers to that. Cheers to DA. Happy trails.
Cheers to Gayle Benson. I didn't think she had it in her. I really thought we were going to have to watch this garbage for the next 9 weeks.
I think I'm still in shock that we actually did it in season. I mean, I'm not in shock to the extent that I think you had to do it after you lose to the Panthers after your 7 losses straight. You can hear that there's angst in the locker room. I mean, you don't stand to benefit.
It's also the way you lost it.
The way you lost it.
It was clearly coaching lost that game.
Yeah, and it's a buildup of the weeks past. It wasn't an anomaly. It wasn't a fluke. And it's like. Just you could hear of things getting worse to a point of no return in the locker room, and you had to do it. You stood to benefit zero from keeping him around. So, but I agree. Cheers to Gayle. You can say what you want about her, what she may or may not have done before this, but I think when the rubber hit the road today, it was put out there that this was not the way Mickey would have preferred for it to happen. He would have preferred to ride it out all year, and the word on the street is that she came in and basically made it her call. I mean, whether it's her and but
no statement from her, no statement from Mickey. What is that from an organizational standpoint? Nothing. Hey,
that's
Darren, Rizzi, why don't you go out there and just tell everybody?
Yeah, so according to Foster Moreau, just so everyone knows what we're talking about, there was no statement in the locker room to the team by Gayle Benson, Mickey Loomis, Dennis Lauscha, anybody. It just apparently they sent Rizzi into the room and he just, I guess, took over and that was it. So that's a little strange and I guess a little concerning. I mean,
it tells you something about what's going on with the organization. Clearly there's disagreement. Clearly she doesn't want to be the face in that context, I think, which is fair. She never has been. She's never stepped on Loomis's toes. She doesn't want to be like a Jerry Jones making these press conferences. Yeah. She doesn't want that, which is fine. But for Loomis to just not make the statement, because what's going on there? That makes no sense.
I think my first reaction, like my gut read on it, would be it's yet further evidence, or it expands the indictment against Mickey or deep into
Yeah,
it.
and that's what I wanted to get into.
Because
I agree with that.
Because
That's a
he's
good point.
clearly, well, not clearly, but it's just that he seems to be so miffed at whatever this is. You know, that Gayle made the call or that it went the way he didn't want it to go. That he's
Well, Corey, you have to look beyond the results.
right.
Well,
right.
that's exactly the
but
press
he's-
conference where he tripled down, and then he's forced to fire him halfway through the season.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
like you were completely wrong.
Yeah.
He's not being cooperative with the message from the team, because if Gayle said, look, from a business standpoint, this has to happen. I've spoken with the players personally without you, Mickey, and this is my read on it. Maybe she's talked to other people about it, and so
All
clearly
she has to do is look at anything in town.
well, and that too. But I mean, like, I think the most important people to her are the people who.
I mean, does she not follow us on Twitter? We've been making this abundantly clear. It needs to happen.
there's a few burner accounts that have come up in the past year. Little curious.
And I'm a
But-
firm believer in don't listen to the fans, but there's no arguing with 2 and 7.
No.
Okay.
I mean,
There's just no arguing with it.
Well, don't listen to the fans if you're already successful. And
Correct.
or don't listen to the fans on football decisions. Like if the dude in the call-in show is like, I mean, I can't believe we ran the ball 10 more times than we passed it. We should have been passing it first. Like you don't have to listen to that stuff. But when the fans are saying like, we're not having fun at the games. We feel like we're getting ripped off. We work hard for our money and we spend our money on this team. That's the shit you do listen to.
Right.
And that was more than out there. But I think back to the Mickey thing, it's like he seems like, my gut is that he's acting like a child.
He's an asshole.
Like he doesn't want to go. Because Gayle's probably saying,
it's
look,
unprofessional at a minimum.
Gayle's
right?
probably saying, I'm
minimum.
not the football person. I'm Gayle. Right. I go to St. Louis Cathedral every Sunday at 9, and I wear my diamond earrings you can see from a mile away, and I do Mama Gayle things. Mickey, you're the one who has to go in.
He
and
made
tell
himself the
tell
face
the
of this
football,
whole thing.
Tell
He
the
did
football
that.
guys about the football ramifications and who's coming in as your new interim football coach. Gayle
But he
doesn't
did
want to do
not
that.
have to do that press conference with the Chuck Noll and all this and go over the
Oh, yeah.
top defending. He didn't have to do
brought it
that.
on himself.
He chose to do that.
Yeah.
And then you cower when you're proven wrong. Because he's
Right.
been proven wrong. There's no debating that.
The one,
that was the same press conference where he was smacking gum and
Yeah.
looked coked out, right?
Yeah, exactly. We've had our disagreements with people on Twitter, in person, etc. But the one thing that I think I do agree with that is out there is that Mickey's ego is, he's almost was trying to drive this car, force it with the brakes falling off, with everything failing, forces this car driven by his ego into the garage of, I'm going to show you that I can make Dennis Allen work. I'm going to show you it was me, not Sean Payton, Drew Brees, or that I can, or even if it was them, I can do it with somebody else.
That's what he's trying to prove.
And-
That's what Peyton's trying to prove, right? That's what they're all trying to prove. I get that.
So but he had to get rid of that idea.
We didn't bring this up, I think, last episode, but we had a back and forth about his kind of explanation of players and player development after DA said, I don't think we have great players, or really you can win with just good players if they're all this type of good player. And he comes out and he uses Cam and DeMario as examples to build out a roster. Literally two of the biggest outliers you can imagine as far as a player playing 5 years before they become a Pro Bowl level player.
There was a year where that statement would have been a good statement, but it's not this year.
There just aren't that many players ever.
I don't think it's a good statement.
It's a bad
ever.
statement, period.
It's
I
a
think.
bad statement, period.
But I'm saying, like, if you're saying you want some foundational pieces, like, to be leaders and that are high quality players.
No, we're not talking about that part of the comment. We're talking about
look what they did when we were
Right.
patient. And it's
right.
okay,
they did nothing for 4 years, and then
agree.
all of a sudden
that's
they became
why
Pro Bowlers and
we
all
have
pros.
Davenport situation.
I agree with
That's
that,
why we
yeah.
have these players that we just hang on to. And, I wanted to talk a lot about Loomis because while we're all ecstatic about this,
Loomis has got to go, too.
I don't know that we've solved the biggest problem.
We didn't.
No, definitely not.
To me, I wrote up a couple examples. I was just thinking, where are we with Loomis the last 5 years? Because I think Corey's point is dead on the money. It is his ego is at work, and I'm going to run the show. I'm going to show you how good I am. And the moves in the last 4 years, in my opinion, 4 to 5 years, have shown you exactly that he's putting his stamp on it, and kind of just his approach is crazy to me. There were 5 things I came up with. Y'all can
Yeah.
debate these, or we can go back and forth on them, or maybe y'all have one that's even worse than these. But this is what I think why we are where we are at are these moves by Loomis in particular.
Well, hold on. Before you jump into that, though, there had been rumors floating around that Loomis has kind of been putting feelers out there trying to get his name out there for Hall of Fame consideration. So it goes perfectly with Corey's
He
point.
does not belong in the Hall of Fame.
He does not. And it's ego-driven at this point, and that's what the evidence points to. So go ahead and give us your examples.
So there's 5, and this is just in the last 5 years, and this is not to discount some of the moves he's made in the past. Obviously, we've talked about it. I give him all the credit in the world for hiring Peyton. Peyton was a
Home run.
risky hire, maybe not risky, but debatable hire. He was not a slam dunk hire that year. He had some troubles in the past, and some people
He got his play calling duties taken away as an
Correct.
offensive coordinator. I didn't
Exactly.
want him. I'll be honest. I didn't want him.
And
I
that's
was
what
like,
I mean.
no.
He saw past it. That worked out great. I give him credit for Drew because he still wrote the contract. I think we got more lucky than good there. Drew didn't pick here first, but he still
think it
wanted
takes
Drew,
luck, though.
and he went after Drew.
I think Peyton is the one who really closed the deal with Drew. Sean. Over Mickey.
I don't think either. I think it was Drew's last option. That's what I think, the way it went down. And fair enough, he had a huge shoulder injury on his throwing shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
It makes perfect sense.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
And then you got to give him credit for the huge draft.
The
06 and
with
17.
Reggie and Colston and all those guys.
Roman.
And then you got to give him credit for 17 and whatever
Yeah.
part he played in those. I give him those 4 things in his 20 years. Those were home runs, right? I give him credit for DeMario and bringing in DeMario. I give him, even things like Honey Badger. Some of those things worked out. There weren't many home runs, but there were a couple, and it really gave us that run when we had the quarterback.
Yeah.
But in the last 5 years, post 2017 draft, call it,
Yeah.
right? We start out with Davenport in 2018.
Ugh.
Okay. We trade 2 firsts and a 5th for the first to get him, right? So he cost 2 first-round picks plus a 5th-round pick to get Marcus Davenport. That starts a cascade effect because we're so heavily invested in Davenport. What happens? Trey Henderson explodes on the scene in 2020. Max and I had gone back and forth on Henderson in 2019, and I'm like, man, I don't know if Davenport should be playing. I'm like, Henderson's not getting sacks, but he is disrupting every play. I remember
No, we
one year
both
texting
liked
you,
Henderson a lot.
and I was like, he's in
Yeah.
the backfield every play. I don't know if he can translate that into being a great player, but the year he had, I think, 4.5 sacks is maybe what it finished, and he only played half maybe the snaps. It wasn't a big snaps year.
Yeah.
But he looked like the part.
Yeah.
And I was like, I prefer it when he's in the game over Davenport.
Yeah. What's funny to me, or not funny, it's just telling, given the way that Loomis has handled things, I don't want to hear the word "rass" ever again.
Right.
I'm going to.
Well, that was his whole
and it matters. But Hendrickson was like he wasn't a rassy guy. You know, he wasn't like the prototypical looking.
But you still draft him. He's
guy.
in your building.
He was
And
in
you've got eyes on
They
him.
knew enough
But
about him
they
to say he
drafted him
has the
as-
potential.
You
so
can tell they
him.
drafted him as like a like a not a reach, but just like a.
So, Corey, do you remember
A
what
flyer.
we let him walk out the building
It was
for?
like a-
What
it was like a
his
flyer.
contract? What was his? Okay, he had 12.5 sacks?
I think so, yeah.
12.5
Yeah.
sacks? Let's call it 12. It was 12.5 or 13.
Double-digit sacks.
Yes. And everyone here
Yeah.
believed, like, you can't let this guy go. You
Right.
just can't.
You
Double-digit
gotta-
sack guys are rare as
Just-
all hell.
Like, don't look at him as a number. I really do think that, you look at the player physically and there's an eye test but 12 sacks is 12 sacks. Like, I don't care if you're 6'6", 280 pounds.
You're
and
run
run
at
a
12
four,
sacks.
Run
Yeah,
a 4
especially
5.
in the 4th or 5th round like they did.
So you can say
Well, he was 3rd round, wasn't he?
He was
I'll look it up.
3rd or 4th. I think he was 3rd.
I think our front office is so measurables driven that their mindset to me, I could be completely wrong, but it just smacked me that they were just like, it's a fluke because
Third round.
he shouldn't be doing this. He's overachieving.
Correct.
And
a 3rd round pick, not a low pick.
No, it's not a look. That's a day 2 pick. You got to
But-
hit on those.
This is the era of where all the Saints fans were in euphoria because Drew was still here and we nailed the 17 draft and we're like, oh, he's a salary cap master. Well, we let this guy go, and I think it was salary cap related. It was projecting forward on Davenport, having to pay him potentially. You had Cam, who was still in his prime at that time. I think his best season may have been that year. Was that 18 or
I'm going
19?
to follow up
was around
with
that.
the salary cap idea whenever you're done. But
what did we let him go in guaranteed money on that contract to the Bengals? Do you remember?
It wasn't
as
much.
in, what did the Bengals end up
It
getting?
wasn't. It wasn't enough to keep us from signing him. We should.
Was it like $8 million guaranteed?
16.
16.
4 years, $60 million.
Yeah.
Only 16 guaranteed. You let a double-digit sack guy walk out of the building for that, which is a double investment in Davenport.
Well, at the same time, there was somebody we signed to a huge contract that year.
Not at that position, no.
Not at that position, but
no, it's the same
I'm trying to
year.
think of who we brought in around that time too.
We didn't bring anybody big in that year.
Okay.
Nope.
We just let him walk
but I
out
was
the
gonna
door
say
because
that-
they were expecting Davenport to take that next step.
Yeah.
And since so much capital went into bringing Davenport into the
They
building,
doubled down.
They like you said, they doubled down on the mistake.
Well, I was going to say around that time frame too is significant to me because it was the first period of time where we had already re-signed Breeze once, I think, at that point, but it was that.
Are you
period,
talking about Marcus May?
No.
That wasn't a big contract either.
No.
It wasn't big.
Like, forget the.
But
big
that's
guy,
the biggest guy we brought in. I
Forget the
think.
big guys coming in. I'm past
Okay.
it. I think you're
All right.
right. We didn't bring in anybody big in. But when I think about the time when the time frame when Hendricks is leaving, immediately post the 2017 draft, the team's having huge on-field success. Breeze is just lighting things up, even though there were still people saying he had a noodle arm and all that stuff. But we were on fire. The best version of our team we had seen since 2011. And it was the first time in a while where we had really started to ramp up the kick the can philosophy and the salary cap. And so
no, that's been going on.
I mean, it's been going on for a while.
That's going on for a while.
But it was when every next contract Breeze had to sign, you really had to push out some salary. You had more when the 17 guys came in. I'm talking like a 3 to 4 year period, like over that expanse.
Yeah, but the kick in the can thing has been going on forever.
It has.
Because that Bill Barnwell's been writing the same fucking
No.
article since like 2011.
No, Mickey's always had the same MO, but I mean, like, he really doubled down on it, I felt, when he had to keep Breeze on the roster. He had to keep the 2017 draftees on the roster.
I don't disagree with
And
you,
so-
but while Breeze was finishing his career, I was totally okay with that.
And that's what I'm saying. So
Because
that
you had a
happened,
chance.
But the thing with Mickey, and it also ties into what you also brought up, is the subsequent drafts. If you're going to have that, if you're going to really double down on that philosophy, you can't miss on the drafts. And we did.
And let's talk about how you treat it. We're going to keep
Right.
going. Okay. So one is Davenport. This is what started it all, really.
Right.
Okay. You were certain you don't trade 2 firsts for a guy to move up. What was it? 8 spots? What did we move from? No, we moved up pretty heavily, huh?
Yeah.
27 to 14, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but you trade 2 first-round picks plus a mid-round pick. Not a big deal there. But to go get a guy, you're pretty sure about him if you're going to do that. Then it turns into losing Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson in 3.5 years.
Time out. Hendrickson was drafted in 17. Davenport was 18. We didn't lose Hendrickson until he was a free agent.
21.
21, yeah.
Correct.
So it was a couple years later. It's not
Correct.
like...
But you're facing the Davenport 5th-year option and potential contract.
You had to
Because
make a
it was
choice.
his 3rd year. 18, 19, 20, he had already played. 21, we lost him. That was coming into his last year of his rookie deal before the 5th-year option decision, which we picked up.
Right.
So that's just projecting forward. You have to either, okay, we can't sign Trey and Davenport to 15, 20 million a year, right? Because you have Cam already at 20 a year. You're gonna have
But you could have, though. If you're kicking the can like we were talking about, you
Maybe
know,
so.
and you could have done it.
Either way.
They chose not to. They were assholes. They misjudged it. They fucked up. It's the easiest way to say
He's
it.
had, okay, so just what Trey has done with the Bengals, 3.5 years, 50.5 sacks.
It's insane.
Is Hall of Fame caliber defensive end play.
Yeah.
Okay, he's averaging 14 sacks a season if you project that out.
Yeah.
Has been elite. All Pro 1 year, Pro Bowl another year, missed a couple games the other year, ended up with 8 sacks.
keeps
this
that-
year he leads the league in sacks, 11, halfway through the season.
If he
On
keeps
pace
that
for-
going, he's Hall of Fame.
Correct. If he goes 3 more years at that clip, he's
Yeah.
in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So you let him walk for nothing because of it all started with Davenport, in my opinion, because they made a choice. Cam's still a great player. We're going to go with Davenport. We're going to let Hendrickson walk.
Yeah.
That had to be what's in their head.
Rather than acknowledge
Okay.
the sunk cost, they're like, we're going to stick with the guy we put all this into.
Then I believe it was the next year. We were faced with the decisions. No, that was also the Von Bell year, right? Did he not go to the Bengals the same year?
I believe he did.
I believe he did.
This
Yeah.
isn't on my top 5, Von Bell, but Von
Well, hold
Bell.
on, no. Von Bell was a different draft year than Hendrickson.
he was 16.
16, yeah.
But he went
was
to the
Michael
Bengals,
Thomas.
if not the same year, right around the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I
did
think he
leave
actually
that-
left a year before.
He left with Marcus Williams? Couldn't be. He left.
No,
Marcus
Marcus Williams was
22.
2017.
He left 22 was his first year with the Ravens, right?
But what?
17, 18, 19, 20. Did he leave 21? No, we franchised him.
Yeah.
We franchised him. Then we let him walk.
Yeah.
That was gonna. Vaughn's not on my list, but Vaughn walked for 3 years, 18 million.
The original point was Vaughn was the year before Hendrickson going to the Bengals.
So bring us
Correct.
back. Bring us
Yeah,
back home. Where are we going with this?
Okay, so, well, on with Hendrickson. Then we follow up. We lose Von Bell. We signed Malcolm Jenkins back, I think. Von Bell was $3 million guaranteed. That's all he went for. We decided to let Marcus Williams go in favor of Malcolm Jenkins, who retired after 2 years. Mm-hmm. Marcus Williams was 24 years old, I believe. Came out in the league when he was 24, 25. We instead signed Marcus May coming off an Achilles injury. We all saw how that worked out. He played 17 games, got suspended. We had to cut him early.
May was the direct Marcus Williams
year.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
We decided, just for context, Marcus Williams' contract, how much guaranteed?
Not that much.
Marcus,
The difference was minimal between him and
guaranteed money for Marcus Williams, $17 million. Guaranteed money for Marcus May, $14.5.
Yeah.
So over $2.5 guaranteed. We let a healthy, younger, better player go.
Definitely
and
more
brought in
rangy.
an injured with an Achilles for a safety. And he looked like a guy with an Achilles injury when he got here, for being honest. He became more of an extra linebacker. Yeah, and
legal issues to boot.
Got suspended, the whole thing, and got hurt. From there, then we're getting even further down there. We get into the CJ issue, which I think was a big issue because it showed the incompetence of Loomis to me glaringly. You trade him for a 7th. The comp pick is more than that. Okay, so let him sit the whole year and go sign somewhere and get a higher pick.
Right.
Get
It
the
makes
third or fourth.
0 sense.
Yeah.
Why you would trade him for a 7? Because you know he had value in the league, which he proved. He went and got, I think, a 1-year, $10 million contract from the Lions. The following year, you would have gotten back a 3rd or a 4th. Nobody knows the real math, but Mac
3rd, 4th, 5th.
Stuff like that is
somewhere.
really head
Better than a
scratching
7. Better
because
than a
it's
7.
kind of like if someone laid that out to you, like
But
here's
that's
what,
ego.
It's like
That's
here's
ego.
what, right. Like here's what
Hey.
happens if you don't do it. Here's what happens if you do it.
Right.
And
I'm
then
going to show you. I'm going to trade you for nothing. Well, you got
clearly-
nothing back. You
Right.
hurt yourself.
Right.
Okay? So we got a 7th when we could have just told him, go home, sit out
Yeah.
the year, and we'll take the 5th in return when you go sign somewhere next year.
Right.
Idiotic. Then the biggest one in recent memory is the Olave thing. And Max and I disagree on how we think this whole thing played out and what they were doing. Here's how I view it.
Call it a combo deal.
I don't want to, and here's why. I'm explaining why I don't call it a combo deal, and you can go off it. I can see both ways. This is the way I view it. We had the 18th pick. We selected Penning with the 19th pick. So anything we do, to me, is to go get Olave, because you knew you weren't getting Olave at 18. Correct? Can we agree on that? You're not getting Olave at 18.
They thought they were going to be able to get Olave at 18, but then the run on the receivers started happening, and they realized they had to move up.
I get it on the move up, but let's just... Those were the 2 players they thought they would get out of this trade initially, and they ended up having to double down.
Yeah, but I am going to say, I know the cost that was associated with it, and it was too much, but I am going to say our wide receiver room was so bad the previous year, 2 years, that I was fine with paying that price because we actually got a good prospect in the building, because that wide receiver room, an undrafted free agent wide receiver, Marquez Callaway,
I agree.
was
It was
the
terrible.
number 1 wide receiver that year.
Well, no, yeah, because
was
Mike Thomas got
fucking
hurt yet
terrible.
again. But
Yeah.
Mike Thomas was coming back. But that's why we're also in the situation we're in with the roster depth, though. So here's how that trade shakes down. And you can view this however you want. Max believes we had to get 2 picks to get the 2 players we wanted. That's obviously true. If you wanted 2 players, you need 2 picks. Only way to do that was to go get a second first. What they did is they traded 18. They got 16 and 19 in return, right? They end up taking Penning at 19. To get that, they traded next year's first, 2023. They traded that same year of 2022, 3rd and 7th, and they threw in a 2024 second.
No, it was too much.
Okay.
In
Then,
hindsight.
because they miscalculated and they realized they had to go to 11 to get him, I believe. Did we get?
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to 11 to go get him. From the 16th pick, we had to move up 5 more picks, and we had to throw in the 98th and 120th to get there. So basically what you gave up to get Olave, in my opinion, and again, the only reason I say this is because we had 18 and we used 19 on Penning. You could have done that and just been done with the whole draft, okay, and just had no Olave. So for me, all this math, and I understand things changed. They thought they were going to get him, all that, but all in, it cost the 2023 first-round pick, 2022 third, 98th pick, 2022 third, 101st pick, 2022 fourth, 120th pick, 2022 seventh round pick number 237, and the 2024 second round pick. 6 picks to make all that noise happen.
Yeah.
One of them outside of the 4th round. Everything was inside of for the first 4 rounds. 5 top 4 round picks to go get him. And My argument at the time was, because I was with Max on Olave, I was like, I'm all for it. Let's draft him. Let's go. I like the player.
We all liked him coming out.
And we all see, we can keep calling it potential, whatever, the concussion problems, all that. We're not here to bag on Olave. It has nothing to do with him as a player.
Right.
To give up that much, I told Max, if he's not Jerry Rice, we lost this trade. Because this day and age...
Well, hold on. He doesn't have to be Jerry Rice, but he has to be Isaac Bruce.
If he's not a Hall of Famer.
He has to
Well,
be...
he doesn't have to be the greatest
Doesn't have
of
to be
all
the
time,
GOAT,
but he's
but
got to be
for me-
top guy.
Yeah.
Like if he's Larry Fitzgerald, if he's Terrell Owens,
Fitzgerald,
he has to be
yes.
one of those
There's
guys.
very few on my list.
He's got to
that
come
would
out the
qualify.
chute.
Yeah.
And
Killing it.
The reason I say that, and I would maybe not have said this 15 years ago, but today, with the way the salary cap is structured and the value of draft picks, to give up 5 top 4 round picks for one guy, almost any guy other than a quarterback,
It's going to be wrong
is the
99
wrong
times out of
way to
100.
go.
Yeah.
Okay, because you need those to fill your roster. It's just the way it is. So that's my last one. Those are my 5. It's Marcus Davenport into Trey Hendrickson, Marcus Williams and Marcus May situation, Olave being the last one, and the CJ just showing those, for me, shows you what's happened in mostly the post-Peyton era of Mickey Loomis. And all this is ego.
Yeah.
This is I can do whatever I want and get the guy I want. To me, this
thinks
is
he can,
unilateral
like-
decisions, because I don't think there's many people in that room agreeing with a lot of these,
Yeah,
especially
and,
the pick.
And look, I agree
Yeah.
with the I guess the core of your message. It's Loomis's ego has allowed him to run just amok with everything that has been done in the past 5 years. The thing that gets me with Loomis and our front office in general is the total lack of respect for draft capital. You touched on it, the number of picks that basically went into getting Olave on the team. And it drives me insane as someone who has always been a very big fan of the NFL draft. Like, it's probably my favorite time of the year. It's that time where you actually have hope as a fan. And, there's all these... You and I grew up as kids talking about, like, man, if we could just
And
do
real
this
quick,
in the draft.
off of that, when were we the most successful under Loomis? When we nailed 2 drafts
Right.
with a lot of picks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Keep going.
and like if I were an NFL GM, my philosophy on the draft would be to stockpile as many picks as possible and utilize those picks to move down the board to accumulate more picks. You could, like this year, right now we have the 3rd pick in the draft, if the draft were to be held today. Instead of staying there and reaching for a quarterback who's probably not worth the 3rd pick,
Right.
or taking I don't know, an offensive tackle
You know,
or defensive, whatever.
It's a weak QB class, too.
Someone's going to trade up, though.
Right.
Because
So-
there's 2 of the quarterbacks are going in the top 5.
Yeah.
Trade back. Pick up a first-round pick next year for moving back a few spots.
Get 2 tackles in the first round instead of 1 in the top 5.
Exactly. And then guess what? If you can, let's say you trade to like pick 10. Let's just say the Raiders have the 10th pick.
Yeah.
We know they need a quarterback.
Right.
If you're at the 2nd or 3rd pick, New England has the 1st pick, they don't need a quarterback. They have Drake May. That 2nd and 3rd spot become the spots where you go up to get a quarterback.
Yeah.
Trade back 8 spots.
And then do it again.
And then do it again.
Yeah.
Like, trade back 8 spots, pick up a first round and some more, and then trade back again to like 18, 19, 20. Maybe somebody wants to jump up for Malachi Starks,
Yep.
stud safety,
Pick up a
someone like
second
that.
year.
You might even pick up a first. Look
Well,
what
I'm
the
saying-
Saints gave up to go get the Davenport. You could possibly pick up another first.
That's if you go all the way to 27. Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
could.
so,
easily.
But the point is, utilize the draft. Go back, pick up more capital.
Yeah.
Get as many lottery tickets as you can, because draft picks are lottery tickets. And the reality is, our team is devoid of talent. Like, this team is lacking
It's because
talent.
of crap like the Olave trade.
Exactly.
And we know that.
So, to me, there's a clear path to getting this team back where it needs to be. You got to reset the salary cap. We've started that process over the last couple of years. Keep doing what we're doing. I looked at the free agent list coming up for 2025 offseason. I wouldn't resign any of these fucking guys.
For us.
Yeah, the only ones worth the shit you can make an argument for is like Paulson Adebo coming off an injury. If you can get him for cheap, yeah, bring him back on another 1-year deal. Chase Young, fuck giving him big money. Let that dude walk. Or trade him now. The trade deadline is tomorrow. We're recording this Monday night.
Right.
Move him to the Lions or just get a 5th-round pick. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
get draft picks. We need draft picks.
But here's another Loomisism, right? If you know you're not re-signing him, take anything right now.
Exactly.
Right.
Because this year is over. Let's
You
stop
can't-
pretending.
And
Okay?
look, he's had enough games to show what he is. You know, I think like
And he's an average defensive end.
He's average.
I mean,
he's average.
Is he getting pressure? Sure, he's getting
Not making a lot of plays.
back there, but he's
he
not,
made one good play this week. He
Yeah,
still
he-
missed the
he
tackle,
clo-
but it was a really good play.
He is a
He got
poor
him- he got
man.
his one sack,
He is a
right?
poor man.
Did he?
He is a
Yeah,
poor.
when
Gibson
he
got-
came in, or maybe that was one.
No.
that was
He has
running-
2 on the year.
It was
On
a
the
running
year.
play.
He is
So it was
a
the reverse.
Yeah,
The
he is a
pendulum.
poor man, Jadeveon Clowney, and what I mean by that is his talent is so high and his draft pedigree was so high that he is going to constantly get 1 year, $8, $9, $10 million contracts because these teams are going to look at him and say, this guy is fucking King Kong in pads. If he ever puts it together, maybe we can get him to put it together. You notice how Clowney bounces from team to team?
Because teams will continue to take a chance on him.
Davenport is still popping up on teams right now.
Yeah, my whole thing is I just want to see us hit. You know, like stockpile the draft picks.
We
Yes,
did.
I
We let him
up,
go to the
load up,
Bengals.
load up.
We let him go to the
right.
Bengals.
Like, well, at least we got a few years out of the guy, right? I mean, but we've had an issue with just getting draft picks that are amounting to literally anything. I mean, Fuaga was one where I think I mentioned it in a
Fuaga's
couple
gonna be fine.
episodes.
They stayed put, and
we
they took
stayed
the guy they
put.
should have taken.
And Mickey said, I was trying to trade up, but couldn't find anybody. You know, so he tried to trade out of it, and he couldn't find anybody, thankfully. And so,
And you've got a guy who's going to start there. I don't know if he'll
and
end up being a
Bowers-
Pro Bowl or
look,
All-Pro level, but he's going to start there for a decade.
Bowers had gone ahead of us. Enough people had already gone ahead to where like Fuaga was pretty much one of the only
It was him or
choices
Dallas
you
Turner.
had.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
so
Dallas Turner was the option.
so they almost lucked into that by their own
Think about
first round
the year we got
standards.
Ramczyk.
Yeah,
They
same
wanted
thing.
to take Reuben Foster.
Yeah.
And basically,
And so my whole thing is like, yes, like accumulate picks, but at the same time, I don't have much confidence right now that the people making the draft decisions are actually going to do the right thing with the picks once we get them.
I
mean,
think if you've
gotta
given
you
Jeff
gotta have
Ireland
them.
picks, he has done a pretty good job if you really look at it. Overall, he
Loomis
hasn't
needs to
had
get
enough
out of his
picks.
way.
Yeah, you need volume to
Yeah,
hit.
you need volume.
Right. So last year's draft, are we putting that on Ireland?
That's not
or
a complete bust yet, but it's not looking great.
23 or 24?
the one we just had?
Brazil,
You're talking 23.
23.
Yeah. No, 24.
Kool-Aid?
I mean,
And-
it's
Fuaga
9
and
games
Kool-Aid.
in. You can't say anything about it.
I mean, theoretically, Fuaga, Kool-Aid, Bud means you got 3 guys who may play for us
Yeah.
for a long time. That's not a
it's
bad
too
draft.
soon to
Or I
talk
think
about
of-
the 24
or
draft. The 23 draft we
with
can talk
Kendre
about.
and AT and
Brzee,
Saldivari, Foskey, you know.
that's the one we can talk about. Foskey's a bust.
Bosky's a bust. Brzee, we're still we haven't seen it yet. He hadn't put it together clearly, but you see the ability. So
Right.
he only really started 1 year in college. I think that's for him to come 1.5.
No,
How many
he
games
came in
he
as a
played? 20
freshman,
games?
man.
we didn't trade
He
up.
played his whole freshman year, and then then he missed a whole year.
Yeah, but
He got injured.
he was the best he was the best player on that team. As a
Yeah, but he
freshman.
didn't play a lot. Is all I'm saying. So
played a decent
theoretically,
amount, man.
you could see a year and a half in, you might not see his full potential yet. There could be a lot of growth in his game.
So either way, I mean, if it's Mickey, he's got to significantly, I think, improve on the draft process.
No, he just needs to get the fuck out of the draft room and let
If
someone
that's
else
what it
who
means
knows
to
what they're
improve,
doing.
like make the drafts better than what they have been.
Yeah.
Maybe
How many games
last
did he
year's not a
play?
big bust yet, but
22, something like that.
So he played 12 as a freshman,
Right,
only
whole year.
4 as a sophomore,
Right.
10 as a junior.
Yeah, so he's got 26.
Career high in sacks as a freshman.
Right.
I
Because
guess
he got hurt both those years at some point, and he just wasn't himself.
The second year was the best.
But
Well,
back-
Real bad.
backing it
and
up,
his
like,
sister, wasn't his sister and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
that was
yeah.
his junior year.
But the bigger picture for me with Loomis is like, where's this guy's head at? You know, is he really?
we know where it's at. He's an egomaniac, and
Well,
he's pushing his own. I
'cause
don't want to say the word agenda, but he's pushing
I
his own
think
agenda.
there's things that he says publicly, and then there's what does he really want to do? Because you can't assume that every single thing he's saying to Mike Hoss and WWL or saying in a press conference is like what he actually believes. It's probably a mix of both, where there's smoke, there's fire. I mean, he's not going to give us all of his secrets. He's not going to tell us all of his.
But Corey,
his
would
whole
you give an
play-
interview?
Man, he's pretty
But-
transparent, dude.
but,
When you do
what
that
I'm
press
saying-
conference that's that condescending to
Yeah.
everyone, as if you don't
So-
know
right.
football.
yeah.
So that's what
Dude.
so that's I'm not saying
I don't
he
think he's
does.
covering anything up.
My point is what he has shown us. If what he is saying is where he's really at, then this guy's been in it too long. You know, he cannot see the forest in the trees right now. He's telling us he's comparing DA to these historic coaches.
Yeah,
you
but
know, and it's
you
like
got to realize
it's called tenure,
Loomis is so
I know
arrogant.
it
As soon as you get tenure,
Hold on. Loomis is so arrogant he doesn't care what anyone
That's
else.
what I'm saying.
But here's the thing, though. He's not covering anything up in these interviews. He interviews with Mike Hoss or whoever it is. He is telling you what he thinks.
Okay, so then what I'm saying is, if what he's telling us is what he's actually thinking, it's even more furthering of the indictment against him, because he's
correct.
Because what he's saying is he's clearly been in it too long.
How many years he's been here, Max? 22?
Way too long.
So it's like
He was here with Randy Mueller. He came in
Right.
because he was just a numbers guy.
Mueller
He's not a
left what
football
year,
guy.
though? What year did Mueller leave?
99, 2000, right?
2000?
Oh, he was the playoff year.
When did he get the GM spot is what I'm saying.
Oh, GM after his first hire was Breeze.
He was GM before that.
No, I know. It was probably 02, 03.
Yeah, that's what I think. So you're talking 22 years, and the way Mickey's head
Right.
works, we won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I am an all-time great.
can't be taken away. Yeah,
You went to one Super Bowl in 22 years. The NFC has gone to the Super Bowl 22 times, right? How many NFC teams are there?
right. There's
You're below.
less than that.
You're below
Yeah.
your share of Super Bowl appearances.
Right. Other teams have gone more, and the thing is, when
He was made
if you're-
GM in 2002.
If you're any
There you go.
organization and you're weighing whether, like, do we move on from this person, or do we switch their assignment? Do we demote them or promote them? You always think, well, if we don't have that person in that one position, what's the one thing they do really well that we're going to lose out on? There was a time where
Loomis, nothing.
maybe there was something you could point to, like 06 draft and whatever. But nowadays, in the past few years, you can't point to one thing that you're going to lose out on that Mickey Loomis can do if he's not in that position anymore. You could bring in almost anybody else out there in the league who can do the same exact shit that Mickey Loomis can do. Yeah, there was some when he came straight away with Sean Payton in 06, got us to the NFC Championship against the Bears. Coming right back in 09, the Super Bowl. Not too long after that with the 2011. Yes, you couldn't really say that Mickey Loomis is doing anything bizarrely wrong or we're winning despite him. He was giving you the players who were helping you have success. But those days are gone. He's not that guy anymore. And there's a lot of other guys who were younger.
Man, he was never that guy.
But
And the reality is,
understand
he's
the-
overseeing two Louisiana sports teams, the Pelicans and the Saints, and they both suck. And they
Right.
both are just train wrecks.
Well,
right
yeah.
now.
I mean, Mickey doesn't have any day-to-day with the Pelicans, but it's...
I mean,
he
he's
did
the
in the
executive
beginning.
vice president of basketball operations.
He's got a title with the organization, but I mean, it's... But my point is...
He
he's-
gave it up to Griffin.
He's
That's fair.
long
But
gone from any days, even when he could make the argument that if you lose me, you lose this. There's
And
nothing we lose if we lose
I
him
think
at this
as
point.
fans, we weren't harsh enough on him.
We weren't.
About how even talent depleted our defenses were for years and
Yeah.
years and years. These were not
Right.
great talented defenses.
Yeah.
We hit on some players. We hit on Will Smith was a very good player. He wasn't an elite player. He was a very good player.
Yeah.
He brought Vilma in. Great move to
had-
get a couple years out of Vilma
We
towards the
had
end of his career.
Stephon Anthony starting a linebacker during Breeze's prime.
He didn't start
You know-
long.
But it's like, but that was the ego saying, like, I'm going to draft this kid. I'm going to...
I just think
as
he
a
gets
starter.
way too much credit for
Yeah.
Drew Brees carrying a franchise with a footnote to Sean Payton, giving Brees the offense to run. Those guys are what created what we had.
Well, let me say this though. Our fan base had a very big part in perpetuating the myth of Mickey Loomis. And I know you guys both remember back in like 08, 09, 2010, 2011, that period where whenever somebody became available as a free agent, there was the make it happen, Loomis.
Right.
Because everyone had this perception in their
The
mind.
cap's a
that
myth. The cap's a myth.
The cap's a myth. Loomis is a genius with the cap. Loomis does this. He knows this. And it was all bullshit.
We were keeping the players that the fans liked, and we just so happened to continue to have success because we had Breeze and Peyton. So I think the average fan, either you're an average fan, you couldn't connect the dots that this isn't really Loomis doing it. It's the players doing it despite not being in the best roster setup to do it, or you know better, but you're so caught up in the excitement. Like I was a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Where there was a lot of things Loomis did where I'm like, fuck yeah, you saw what we did to that team. We
missed-
traded.
But he didn't
Like,
do anything.
I know,
we just,
but
we
at the
just we all
time- but at-
bandwagoned it, saying
Right,
like, "Oh,
exactly.
hey, make it happen." Loomis did. It's like he didn't do shit.
in the height of-
Waybot had a jersey and it said Loomis, And on the back of it, it had $2 signs.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, that's just, we
No,
were all bought in on
right,
just the bullshit,
right,
having fun.
exactly.
But it was us.
But he
not-
never did anything.
It was the fan base not realizing that it actually wasn't that talented of a team. The
Yeah.
thing that was propping the team up were players like Pierre and Colston
Yeah.
and Nix and Jari. These guys that these weren't genius. These are luck hits.
Well,
If we're being honest, you don't let a guy go undrafted if you know he's going to be a great
combination
player.
of the coach who had the offense to make players like that be in the right positions.
Lance Moore, Willie Snead. I mean,
And you had Drew
on and
Brees,
on.
and
You
know,
had Drew
and the
Brees,
biggest thing
exactly.
is Drew Brees, and guys like Pierre, guys like Lance Moore, guys like Colston, the Super Bowl team, and then even to the extent the 11 team, there were guys that just they did everything right. Like they played by the rules, they ran the right routes, they showed up to practice, they worked hard because they came from backgrounds where they had to if they wanted to get noticed at all, and so you had that kind of attention to detail and crispness of like work ethic, and that meshed perfectly with Breeze and Peyton, and it made up a lot for the deficiencies of like around the rest of the roster. And we also stayed relatively healthy during those years.
He never went
like-
and got Breeze an elite
No.
receiver. Never.
No.
His whole
Oh,
career.
calm down now.
Never.
Don't upset Mr.
No, we drafted Colston. We never went out and got somebody else.
But he was
Like,
not an elite receiver. We can all agree on that. You can call him the best Saint receiver of all time. I'm fine with that. He was never an elite player. He was
wasn't
a good player.
He wasn't a like Larry Fitzgerald who played
Julio
at the same
Jones.
time. He wasn't that.
He
right.
wasn't even in there.
wasn't close, bro.
No, I know. That's why I bring that up. He was not those guys. I'll give you that.
He was
Yeah.
a good player. We all love him.
was a good player.
And he was
Yes.
a massive overachiever. We all love him. Like there's no
Yes.
negativity
Right,
around
but no,
Colston.
but we didn't make a push to get the like. We know what we had with Colston. We didn't make a push to get the dude who could definitely take it up.
Calvin Johnson
over the top. I mean,
the guy who could just turn a game around by himself.
Production-wise, he was basically a 6'4" Chris Olave without the concussions.
He was a very good player. He was not
A
an elite
very,
player.
no, a
Let's
very
just leave
good
it there.
player, not elite.
He never made a Pro
mean,
Bowl.
he's produced
he
more
never
than
made an
Olave,
All-Pro.
but-
He was a very good player
Has
for
he?
9 years. Huh?
Well, he had more touchdowns. Yeah, he's better
mean,
than Olave.
yeah,
but
he's had
it ain't that far
every
apart,
statistical category, he's had more than Olave.
He also had Breeze.
played a hell of a
But
lot longer.
He also had Breeze. That's like
I mean, you can go through homework, look it up, and bring him back
What?
to
though.
me.
I don't need to. I know what it is.
he was the all-time touchdown
They're
leader.
not that far apart.
Well, then recite it.
In
They're
what?
not that far apart.
Wait, what's the argument?
Olave's stats and Colston stats.
They were both right around 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards every year.
Somewhere
Somewhere
over like 9 years.
between. I understand that,
That's a
but
big-
Olave's done it for.
3.
Well, this year he's not going to put up 1,000. I don't
Right.
think. But concussions.
That's the
two of
biggest
them.
difference.
My point is they weren't that far apart from a production standpoint.
I'll tell you this: if you gave Olave a Breeze, his stats would be better than Colston's.
Much.
Of course.
I would say that.
Much.
Oh, better than Colston.
Better than Colston.
Much.
Yeah.
But because that ball would always be in the right spot. There would be none of this. When he's open, that ball would have been there all the time.
And then we get into the criticisms we've had about Olave of can he hold on to the ball? Like, I mean, Colston.
He can't.
Some
But
of
it
those
would have been
highlight-
there so on time all the time, it would not have mattered, is what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
He would get more separation than Colston. Yeah, for sure.
But that doesn't mean a lot. I
No.
love Colston. I'm
That's
just
a tangent.
Let's be honest. Olave, we know, is not elite.
But-
Okay,
but-
we've already figured
But
that
back,
out.
yeah,
Colson
but,
wasn't either.
but back
Colston
to
wasn't either.
back to center. It's the case against Mickey Loomis.
Yes.
And so in
How do you not go get that guy, a Devontae Adams, Julio Jones? Like when you've got that guy,
Or
how do you not
even-
go get him that guy?
or even
once,
try.
right?
Right? Like, I mean, maybe they did, but but
There were no
we
free
usually
agent
hear, we
signings.
usually
There
hear
were
no actual signings, but like we didn't even hear a sniff of like, oh, the Saints are in talks with blank and blank.
I think they always looked at it as Breeze will prop these guys
So
up.
we can get them up.
focus on the other parts of the team
Correct.
that Breeze can't prop up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
the
is
defense was last in the
incredible.
league, right?
Right,
So-
right, exactly. Which is incredible. It's like, okay, so because if you would have presented that to the fans, saying like, well, I'm not going to invest in a big time play receiver because if you stack up the production of the guys we have versus our production with one of those dudes, the margin won't be big enough to justify the cost. And so with the cost, we're going to go invest in the defense. If you'd presented that to us, it would have been fine.
If you could have
But-
executed it.
But nothing,
Yeah.
or we invested in Jarris Bird and Brandon Browner. Like, how did that turn out, you know?
Right.
And so that is the shit that it's like, for all the good Mickey did, you have those examples, and you have your more recent examples that you've mentioned in the post-Breeze era. And it's just, you know, it's been beyond time. And yes, we know he's in the will, and yes, we know it's never going to happen. And by the way, he's in the will, but he's the third alternate executor. He's never going to actually get anything,
Right.
and he's never actually do anything per the will. It's just the fact that his name's in there. And if you're wondering how I know that, I do succession to the state law. So like, That's how I know.
And when we
he's
say
still important to Gayle. Like,
when we
get
say fire Mickey Loomis, we all understand Mickey Loomis is not getting fired.
Yes.
What we are saying is
From the GM position.
fire, which means either promote him to some other title or let him retire gracefully.
Yeah.
Just let him go away from doing the day-to-day
fire
operations.
or retire or promote, and like it's.
But we understand he's not getting fired.
And the promote thing is, promote him, but promote him so that he can get further away period from any football decisions.
Yeah, what's that line from The Dark Knight? You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain.
Yeah.
That's where Loomis is at this point.
Yeah.
Like, he was
Truly.
a quote-unquote
Truly.
hero in the late 2008, 2009, 2010, right around that time. Everyone's
difference is he didn't have to be.
Make Loomis happen.
Right.
He could have said, I'm moving up. I'm bringing
But
in a new GM. We
he
need a
didn't
new vision.
because the ego is coming into play.
Correct.
So at this point,
Right.
he is now the scapegoat for it, and he's the villain. He needs to go.
Because we're at look, Gayle, we give her props for doing what she did with getting rid of Dennis in season.
I'm still shocked.
Over objection by Mickey, but now and if you want to loop Lauscha into this, they're at a crossroads because now you're facing another huge decision, the biggest decision you've had since you decided to stick with Dennis Allen at head coach. You're basically going to be pushed to bring in someone from outside of the building. Are we going to, as an organization, be okay with Mickey Loomis being the one to make that hire? Or is it time to push harder now on that second step? And yeah, it's hard to see it actually happening, but it was also hard to see DA being fired in season happening. Like, whoever picks the next coach, it's a big deal. Because we're going to see the same shit again. If Mickey's the one to pick him, it's going to be that much harder.
Well, hold on. So Mickey, at this point, he's 1-1 when it comes to picking coaches. Because he picked Peyton, home run.
Yeah.
He picked DA, complete strikeout.
Yeah.
So he's batting 500 at this
I feel
point.
like the loss should be weighted more for DA.
I think it's a
no,
different...
because we had a Super Bowl out of the
It's a
first one.
1-1, but I feel like it feels like a 1.
But the one has a Super Bowl.
like 1-3. I feel like the DA.
No. The one involved a Super Bowl victory, so I'm going to give him. I'm going to give props for
one.
that. So
no, but I'm saying like the DA loss.
But actually, let's go ahead and pivot.
Yeah.
Who would you want if you're in charge? Who are you going after as a head coach? Now, I know you read the same Underhill article.
Actually,
I
didn't
read
read it yet, but
you didn't read it? Okay.
No.
Shout out, props to Underhill and Triplet. They had some good articles going out today. One of them had Aaron Glenn as a possible front runner.
Yeah.
Terrible.
And then it also mentioned Mike Vrabel. It mentioned Belichick. It mentioned Pete Carroll. Obviously, the obligatory Ben Johnson, also being one of the top
The
candidates.
pipe dream, right?
Pipe dream. But let's start with Corey. Corey, if you were picking, who would you pick? Who's your ideal candidate that would make you happy when it gets announced? Like, you're pounding the table for someone right now. Who are you pounding the table for?
It's Ben Johnson.
Okay, let's take Ben Johnson out of it.
I mean,
he's now number one for everybody.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Ben Johnson gets to pick. And then,
he gets to pick, yeah.
So he's going to go to the best job with the biggest long-term.
Right. So assume no Ben Johnson. Who can you pick? Who are you taking?
I mean, God, it's hard. I like the idea. Dude, I don't know. I'm stuck. It's like Vrabel. I was impressed with what he did with the Titans, with another small market team.
It's another stubborn motherfucker, though.
Yeah, he is.
But he's a tough guy.
Right. And then I know you don't agree with us on Aaron Glenn, but to the extent that if Aaron Glenn comes in here and isn't trying to be the primary defensive play caller, the ideal situation would be if Aaron Glenn could come in and just be a head coach, hire someone else to call the plays on defense, and then bring in the protege to Ben Johnson, or bring in a Ben Johnson-like type of guy, or even, evaluate whether or not you should stick with Clint. Give the main defensive and offensive play calling duties, delegate those out. You just be the guy that the players want to run through a brick wall for. Because the reports from every locker room he's been in, including ours back in the day, and then including in Dan Campbell has spoke glowingly of Aaron Glenn, and I can totally respect Dan Campbell's opinion given what he's done in Detroit. He's seen what guys respond to, and it actually produces results on the field. So if Dan Campbell's saying, like, I don't want to lose this guy, I got to think that whether or not he's a good defensive play caller, he seems to be a big part of why they're having success. And so that is the reason that I keep kind of going, if it's not Ben Johnson, I keep going back to this Aaron Glenn idea, because as much as Vrabel makes logical sense, like the on paper sense, 3 out of 6 years he's in the playoffs, he was coach of the year one of those years. Other guys who have had NFL success as a head coach, some of them are older, some of them are they've been there, done that. How quickly are they going to get jaded if things go south? If we've learned nothing else, like Aaron Glenn, I think will give effort, but we don't. But again, we don't know how he would be as an actual head coach.
No, that's fine. What you got? Because I know you have a different opinion.
I'm absolutely against Aaron Glenn as a choice. And it has nothing to do even with the fact that I don't think he's really succeeded as a DC very well. It's that it's time to turn the page. Like, we have to move on from this to move forward. It's been the same, program. It's why I say, like, love Rizzy, but, like, why even... what I was texting you guys today was not anything against Rizzy taking the interim. I wanted us to give Clint the interim. The only reason is, let's see. Because...
Can he lead a team?
Right. There's a good chance whoever we hire is going to clean house and bring in all their own people.
Right.
So why not we find out if Clint's a candidate for this right out of the gate? I don't want Rizzy just because he's been here 5 years. I think it's too long. We need a new path. I think, to me, that's the most obvious thing of everything. That's why I don't want Aaron Glenn back. That's why I don't want anyone from this era of 20 years that had a big time in the building. Sticking with the same gives you the same results. We've had, we had a very successful run with Drew. We've done nothing outside of Drew in the history of the franchise. That run is over. Right. Drew's not here. Those guys that were here for that whole time, there's a certain culture. That culture is built around Drew. Mm-hmm. I want a new guy, a new vision, a non-Peyton tree, a non-Loomis tree, all of it. I just want someone new. To me, the only person in the building currently that fits that profile is Clint. He's been here 9 games. We were super high on Clint when we were healthy. Obviously, that's gone drastically south. But what's the risk of this season? The season is over. There's one guy in the building who may be something for the future, in my opinion. I would have put him in the interim and just see. How does he lead? How does he do let's put him in that role. Let's see what happens. Because, I can't imagine Rizzy's taking head coach jobs no matter what happens the last half of this year anywhere in the league. So are we trying to, go 4-4? Well, what are we doing?
Didn't he interview with we interviewed
Yeah,
him,
he did.
But
he did. By all accounts, Aaron Glenn was the only other candidate that was seriously considered when DA got hired.
I'm with you. I mean, I agree with the general idea, Nick, because there's validity to that, of course, that you want to bring in, you want to depart as much as you can from the Peyton era, because trying to stay tied to it is where we misstep.
You're running a vision with the guys
Allen
that aren't here anymore.
I think
that's Peyton and Breeze's vision.
That was absolutely into the reasoning with why we brought in DA and didn't go outside. Ultimately, maybe we couldn't get anyone to agree to come in from outside, but it
was a bad year for coaches too. Really bad.
Right. We went with DA, and the hope was that there would be continuity. That word kept coming up, and I even agreed with that. If you can,
I did too.
If you can pull that off, it's the way to go.
We were still good when that happened, other than the COVID
But I think
year.
You can distinguish that from what it would be if you bring in Aaron Glenn. I think the Sean Payton tree has grown enough to where it could come down to it, where objectively, if you've got 2 candidates as your finalist, one could be from the Payton tree and one could be from somewhere else, and the one from the Payton tree, whoever it may be, might just be the better candidate. So it's like, are you going to avoid the better candidate just because they once were here? And I think
I am.
Glenn having been, but for me, the distinguishing factor is Glenn having gone away, him having been a full-on coordinator at Detroit. It wasn't a lateral move. Him finding, whether it's on his own or just being a big part of a team that did find success and turned around a situation quickly. Him coaching under who is now a successful head coach in Dan Campbell. I think that kind of washes out for me enough of a tie that he had to hear to where I'm okay with bringing him back.
Yeah, let me weigh in with this. So I honestly see both of your points, and I think both of you raise really compelling arguments with it. as far as Aaron Glenn goes, he was here for 5 years, 2016 through 2020.
And he played here.
He played a year, but I'm not going to count that for the coaching part. He played in 2008, just for anyone who wanted to know. Detroit, 2021 to present, so that's 4 years. So I get Corey's point in that he's been out of the building long enough. He's been exposed to other systems, and it's very intriguing, the possibility of maybe having a Ben Johnson disciple coming in to run the offense. You know, that would be that to me would be very exciting, and that's probably the only scenario where I would want Aaron Glenn. Like if he's going to come in and try to, poach one of Sean Payton's offensive guys and bring that back, I don't want any part of it.
Right.
Because to Nick's point, we need some separation. That era's gone and forgotten. We need to stop pining about the girl that left us. You know what I mean? And move on and get back out there.
He's also a DA disciple, really.
Is he? I mean,
yeah,
but
here's the thing, though.
My whole thing is,
hold on.
I want the best guy, period.
Right, but DA is not he's not an inspirational leader. Like, we see it.
Correct.
I mean, we see it in every press conference he's ever given.
He's a coach. He's not a leader.
He's an analytical. He knows what he's doing. He's a great defensive coordinator. He knows what he's doing in that respect. He knows the X's and the O's. He is not getting anyone to run through a wall.
No.
Now, Dan Campbell, you've said your piece about him many times about, you don't think he's the best coach. But what I like about Dan Campbell...
I love his demeanor. I don't think he's the greatest in-game coach. I think
he's not. He's put plenty of tape out there that he doesn't make the best decisions.
His personality, I love. You have to love it. It's incredible.
That's what I want out of a coach personality-wise. It's just that...
Well, and
it's a culture thing. Like, he's going to have people ready to run through a brick wall. But
the emotional aspect of it, but then the NFL coach also is the one who's keeping your team set to the schedule, organized, paying attention to the details.
Right. Here's the thing. I don't need the best X's and O's guy as the head coach.
Right.
I don't need that.
I'm with you on that.
What I need is the guy who is going to be the best leader of the team, of the franchise. He's going to have the offensive coordinator in the right place, the defensive coordinator in the right place. Because what is the old saying, you're only as strong as your weakest link.
Yep.
I want the guy who is going to lead the group and go, okay, I know this guy's smarter than me. I know he knows offense better than me. He's going to be my offensive coordinator. I know this guy knows defense as much as me. He's going to be my defensive coordinator. That's what I want.
Historically, those are not the best coaches. The alphas are historically the best coaches for the most part, especially in modern
but that's what Campbell's an alpha.
Be an alpha.
Peyton's an alpha. Belichick's an alpha.
Right. But Campbell's an alpha.
You don't have to be the play caller to be the alpha.
No, not at all.
So be the alpha, but
Max saying I'm bringing in people smarter than me.
Well, that's smarter. That doesn't mean that.
No, like the people.
The alpha.
No.
That just means
get the people. Put the people in the right place to succeed. Like, get the ones who are going to carry out the job.
Peyton,
like
the stories about Peyton that were great, and it's why I think he had a lot of
meticulous.
Success. Were that, he was meticulous, and his position coaches were scared of him, right? Like, he was enough of a quote unquote alpha, even though he called the offensive plays. Like, he had everyone in that building afraid to fuck up, but still playing at full speed, which is the best combination possible. So a guy who can have enough clout with bring in guys who are smarter than you at X's and O's on offense, smarter than you at X's and O's on defense.
I don't disagree with the theory.
With whom you have enough clout with as the dude to where they're not going to want to let you down. And in fact, if you call them to the carpet, they'll be like, fuck, I can't let that happen again. And then your attention to detail becomes their attention to detail.
Saying, historically, the best head coaches were dominant at one side of the ball.
Sure.
Like, they were brilliant at one side of the ball.
It's rare to find one that's...
Belichick, all of them, dominant on one side of the ball. So that's where Glenn, for me, they haven't been
Maybe
great.
Not dominant
They
enough.
haven't been.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's not a good leader. And I do like him. I just wonder...
I need to watch interviews. I'll be able to I'll formulate my opinion if I need to listen to him speak.
It's so early at this point. And I mean...
No, but I want to hear how he talks. It's like Campbell, you hear how Campbell talks, and you're like, fuck, I'm in. I love it.
Yeah.
Mike Vrabel. You listen to him talk, you're like, fuck, I'm in.
I also think when you're talking about this, you have to look at what you see the team looking like and where your strengths are. What are we doing in the offseason? Are we getting rid of Lattimore? Are we quickly trying to get away from Carr and get a young quarterback in? What's our path and what we're going to do?
I think it's impossible to say until we see what we're picking.
Right. Well, absolutely. Until the offseason completely, really. Like when you know where you're picking and know what your free agent moves are going to be, who we're going to let go, that plan will all be in place by the end of the season from presumably Loomis, right?
That's what, yeah.
And where's the strength of your team? That's also going to influence. If you've got a much more talented defensive team than offensive team, you may lean to a defensive coach. You may lean to a Glenn or a Vrabel. If it's the other way, you might be leaning to an offensive coach. You know,
one of the pieces
so you
I read
compete
about.
sooner.
I don't even think you can say
There is
either
one.
side of the ball at this point.
I do think our defensive youth
They're
is
old.
better
Yeah.
than our offense because
Yeah, it is.
I think you got to say that.
It's close, but it ain't good on either side.
I mean, you know, the question
Brzee,
becomes
so
Lattimore.
You got to think Cam Jordan,
Brzee, Alonso,
Mario,
Warner.
Kyran, gone in the next 2 years.
for sure.
But if you think about who you do have that are young, you know, you got Brzee, Warner. I mean, Warner's still young.
So the one on each level.
Alante,
So Brzee-
Kool-Aid.
Adebo,
Carl Granderson.
Adebo,
Granderson.
So, like, you definitely have more youth on defense. I mean,
We don't know if Kool-Aid's good yet, though.
we don't, but he's young. That's what I'm saying.
But he's young.
Where's your talent?
If you go,
Oh, well, I meant to say this, though. I agreed 1,000% with what DA said when he's like, I don't think we have any great young.
yeah,
We don't. Like, we talk about it. We haven't hit on these draft picks. There are no guys where you're like, oh, yeah, when his contract comes up, fucking throw top 5 value at that position at him.
We
Great-
have on the
great is-
team right now
yeah.
great players.
Who are
Lattimore, and if you're going to put Kamara in there, and they're both 29 and going to be 30 next year.
Because the word great is a big word. Like, you're talking about a guy who could be an MVP on his side of the ball.
Yes.
You know, if you're using the word great, like he's
Exactly.
capable.
That's
of
the
that.
only two we have. And
You know.
and Kamara, this may be it. You know, we've talked about the explosive. We talked about all these things.
Yeah.
He's probably not great anymore, but
He's not great
He's
anymore.
really good, but he's
Lattimore's the only great,
like currently when he's playing
his
is
prime,
elite at what he does.
the only player on the team who is elite and in their prime is Lattimore. That's it.
yeah. Kamara,
I think I agree with that. I think
Yeah.
that's it.
yeah.
Like, look at offense. Like, who would you call great?
Nobody.
Olave ain't great.
Nobody.
He's good. And he's the best of the rest.
And
Maybe Fuaga's great
Maybe.
one day. He's not right now.
He's not yet. Penning's not.
McCoy's
and then
really good. He's not
McCoy's
great.
McCoy's really good.
He's not. Yeah, he's not
So
going to be.
let's look at defense. Granderson's really good.
Good, not great.
Brzie's good.
Lattimore's the only one.
Much lower than Granderson, but
Much lower.
yes.
Yeah. Linebackers, Pete Warner's really good, I think.
And he's taken a step this year. We'll see. He's only 25.
when he's played, he's taken a step.
But you can do a quick sweep, and the only one is Lattimore.
Yeah.
That's it.
that
I
way
mean,
you're like, that guy's better than the
you'd be like,
people
did I miss
across from him."
anybody? Let me go back
Safety's,
again.
look,
It's like, no,
safety's
that's it.
still a black hole.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Watching Ugo covers rough.
Malachi Starks would be an amazing pick in the top 10.
I'd be good with it.
I know you would.
He got beat in the Florida game, but I don't know if somebody else fucked up on that one.
Had to be.
So you've got a really poor roster compared. It's a bottom 10
bad.
roster. We've been saying it for 2 years. You know, since we started this podcast, we've been saying this is a bottom 10 roster with, you know, veteran leadership that may be able to elevate it. That's what we were always hoping. Can Cam and DeMario and these guys elevate the team? Well, it's not working. Okay, 9-8 last year. We kind of saved the season at the end. This year's a mess. We get a couple injuries, and it's a complete mess. We're the third pick in the draft right now.
I'm so upset watching how Cam's going out. He played 10 snaps yesterday.
He's
And
done.
that's been like probably the high watermark this year.
And it's not for lack of trying. I mean, like you can tell, like he did a lot over the offseason. I trust everything he's
Even though he's
saying.
not a top 10
when
same
he's-
for Corey, he
you
is
know.
for Max and I, and we're really having a rough time with this.
I don't think it's bad being
I'm so mad.
number
that you
11.
I don't know.
I love Cam. Just
I guess
'cause
my
he's not
summary
top
of the
10.
DA firing is we're all ecstatic, but I think we solved like problem 3 or 4 on the list of what we've got going on right now, and we have a ton of more work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope Gayle puts her foot down further, and
Something with Loomis.
or if Loomis would get some humility and say, you know what, I'm just going to hire the next great GM, and I'm going to put that on my resume.
That's not going to happen.
I'm going to go to VP. I'm going to go prove that I can hire. I agree it's not going to happen.
Well, I looked it up. He's already VP. So where the hell do you take him to?
Yeah, because he's not going to take Lausch's spot, right? That's the next spot, right? So
He's
wait,
already VP.
just
so.
create something. Who cares? I mean,
President of something else. Like,
Look, I agree with that. I mean, we're in such a bad position talent-wise that, man, this is a 2-year process at minimum because you got to continue doing what they're doing as far as getting the cap in order. But at the same point, you need an influx of young talent, and the only way to do that is with draft picks.
Yeah,
we know it's
draft picks.
What you just
Lots
said kind
of
of
draft picks.
It brought up a good point because I think, a lot of people are looking at this as whoever we hire we're hiring him to be the guy, like long term. And it's not that we're going to make a short term hire, but Ross Jackson had a good point earlier, is that when you see this happen with other teams, like how often do you see the first hire, I mean, I know we just had DA for 3 years, but like the team goes in thinking, okay, this is going to be the guy. And then the team's just not built to succeed in the 3 years that new guy becomes the
Correct.
guy. And then over those 3 years, they get better. Their
If
players
we're being
develop.
fair, DA
and so
came into that position. This was not
right.
a great position to walk into.
Right.
No, it
so,
wasn't. It wasn't.
So is this guy ideally going to... You would want this guy to be the long-term guy, but it's like we just went over the roster issues. We also have the cap space issues. It's almost like I would never advocate for hiring someone as a bridge hire, but
That was DA.
it's going to be hard. It was supposed to
But
be,
we're still in
but we
it.
fucked that up too.
Yeah.
So like it's
So
going to
let's
be
say-
hard
let's say
for
this.
some dude to come
Would
in.
Loomis give up-
even the best guy to come in and just succeed with the roster we have, the cap space issues we have. It's going to be tough.
If this roster gets injured, you can't succeed. I
you
believe that.
can't.
No
You
coach
can't.
in the
You
league.
can't.
I will
Right.
say that. A DA failed miserably. You can't lose to Carolina. He deserves to be fired.
Andy Reid,
We went-
Belichick, none of them could succeed with this.
Can't succeed with
Yeah.
this. That's the years Reid had all those injuries. Donovan McNabb, they went 5 and 11.
Well, people
Yeah.
brought
This
up
is what
Belichick.
happens.
Is it almost like do you bring in a Belichick and let him?
This is what I'm getting.
have his 3
Real
years.
quick. Would Loomis, because Max is right, Loomis is going nowhere. Would Loomis bring in a coach to get the coach he wants and give up player personnel decisions and stay GM?
That was in the article that Underhill wrote, and it was like depending on. So he said someone like Vrabel might not need that kind of power, but if you're talking about Pete Carroll, Belichick, you're almost certainly having to give them GM control. So,
Or at least player personnel. Hey, I'm
Player
the
personnel.
GM, but you're in charge. You pick the groceries, like Bill Parcells said.
exactly. So check this out. So I just saw this on Twitter. So the sportsbetting.ag has released their odds for the Saints' next head coach.
That was quick.
Who do you guys think is number one?
Glenn.
No. Surprisingly, Glenn is fourth. He's 7-1 odds. So there's three
Well,
ahead of him.
Belichick's on the top of all the lists, so he'll be on that top 3, I bet.
I think
Nope.
he's not.
Not in the top 3?
Not in the top
Wow.
3.
Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson's 2 at 4-1.
Vrabel? I don't know.
Vrabel's at 5
Wait,
at
the way
9-1.
Max is laughing, it's an off the wall guy.
It's funny.
It's not,
There's ties.
it's not Liam Cohen, is it?
There's ties?
Joe Brady,
Oh God.
3-1 odds.
And look, he's done great, but is
Well,
he
here's
a
one
head
for-
coach?
Here's one for Corey. Todd Monken,
I wouldn't
6-1.
I don't think he's.
Ben Johnson
like,
was 4-1.
Todd Monken's offense is good. He's a great offensive play caller. I loved what he called. I mean, it's college, but I loved the way he called Georgia's
So
plays.
who's been fired so far?
But I
Let's
don't
go through that.
I don't know that he's
The only
head
person
coach.
fired so far was the Jets coach.
Salah.
Salah.
Look, they'll probably interview Monken. To be honest, like
Belichick 14-1, so he's on there. He's just lower than I thought.
I don't
What
want.
do y'all
I
think-
don't want to retread. I don't want to retread.
a
I will-
retread of.
Like a coach who failed in the first
coach who
go
got fired.
round, like a Dennis Allen.
Hey, just so
basically.
you know, Kirby's 40-1.
I
Go
figured
put
he'd
that
be on the
money down.
list.
Oh God damn!
See, I would. He's not. He would never do it. But I
Pete
would.
Carroll's 50-1.
Dion's on there.
Peyton Manning 100-1. I would hire
All
Peyton.
the money.
Wait. Peyton or Peyton?
Peyton.
Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning.
Is it Peyton on there?
I think we lost it.
No.
It stopped recording.
Oh shit.
No, it's fine. You're good. You're good.
Okay.
Peyton Manning.
Peyton.
Peyton Manning.
Peyton.
Peyton.
Would you
Peyton.
hire? I would hire him blind.
I would hire him blind. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That guy's smart as shit.
Well,
He'll figure it out.
Also, I think
It might suck for a few years.
I hate to admit it, but if someone
I do
said, what would you bet on? Like if it's a black or red at the roulette table, black is the guy is
Brian
going to be
Kelly.
long term, or red is whoever's next is the bridge. I'm betting on him being a bridge.
You want to make a move, Gayle? Peyton, $20 million a year.
Yeah. You want to sell some tickets?
We're going 0-17, and you're drafting Arch,
You want that wait
and
list?
we're going to get rolling.
The problem is you need Arch ain't coming out till 2028. He's going to stay until he's a redshirt senior. You know this. He's a Manning.
Isn't he redshirt sophomore right now?
He's redshirt freshman.
Oh, he's redshirt freshman.
2028. He's not coming out 2027 at the earliest. He's not coming out before 4 years.
He's going to stay 4 years. But the thing is, he's going to stay
He's
until
going
he
to follow
graduates.
he's going to follow the Eli path. Eli was 5 years. He redshirted and played 4 years.
But if he graduates, he may come out, I think. I think they may buck that. As long as he graduates. That's going to be the Manning thing. It's not going to be you stay 5 years. It's
Eli
gonna be,
stayed 5?
I know.
But
He
I
stayed
agree.
4,
They're going to want
and
him
he
to
didn't
get
redshirt.
They're not going to let him get out without a degree.
Well, look,
Correct.
here's my point, though.
Correct.
I do not want fucking Matt Nagy. That's the exact type
That's
I
a
don't
DA.
want.
That's a DA. Same
That is,
thing.
that is
He failed
the
miserably.
same thing as
Yeah.
DA. It's a failed miserably
Right.
coach.
Don't-
I don't want that. That's the type I don't want. Vance Joseph. Don't want
No
that.
way. Failure.
No way in hell. Cliff Kingsbury.
Failure.
No. Get the fuck out of here. Do not want it. I will say Brian Flores.
I'm
intrigued by
about Brian
Flores.
Flores because
And that makes
He got a
sense.
raw
talk about
deal. He got a raw deal.
A guy
in
who's he's a guy who players will run through a brick wall for, and is good at the
He's
X's
having
and
a good
O's.
fucking year, dude.
He's a
Man, that defense is
so
nasty.
he's a mix of both. He's dominant
And
on
he's
one
young.
side of the ball.
How old is he? He's got to be in his early 40s.
Yeah, look, I'm fine with him.
Like players will play.
That's a
Oh,
Peyton
yeah,
hire.
that
That's
man.
get a young guy in here who's
Yeah.
going to have time to build
Yeah.
something. I'd be fine
and
with
he's
that.
great on one side of the ball, which is a
So
big
that's my
requisite for
point.
you.
Why hire Glenn when you can hire Flores potentially?
No, that's it.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
If it's between those two, then yeah, maybe Flores.
But
is
I
a
do like
strong
Glenn
candidate.
being involved with one of the top teams in the top 2 teams in the league right now this year. Detroit
I meant to
7-1.
ask you that follow-up question. Do you think Aaron Glenn is pulling offensive talent from Dan Campbell? I don't. If you're not getting,
Well, Ben Johnson's going to leave anyway at the same point. They're both going to go become head coaches.
and those offensive guys are going with Ben Johnson, you can bet your ass on it.
Well, it
they'd be
depend-
dumb
Well,
not to.
no, because there's going to be the one person's going to get picked as Ben Johnson's
OC.
offensive coordinator.
Correct.
And there's going to be someone else who's like, I should have gotten that role. Maybe Aaron Glenn's like, come on, you're OC. Let's go.
right.
But then you're reaching down 2 rungs to get the guy. That
Yeah, but it's still a guy from that system. And, I mean, look at all the guys from the Shanahan tree. You know, like, they're everywhere. The fucking...
they panned out. You'd have to really vet.
no
them.
one's
I
really
mean,
panned out. Let's be honest.
What?
They're good. No one's really done
McVay?
the big thing. Was he Shanahan tree? He was before
Hey,
Shanahan. He
They
was
were on the same...
were
under
together.
Papa Shanahan.
And then,
Papa, right.
LaFleur was in the
They
same.
they
tree?
were the same.
That wasn't really
with
his
the, with
tree.
the
He was-
Redskins.
Yeah. They were all. But LaFleur was only there like a year, right?
It's
Something-
the
he
same,
was-
same tree, but
He's a good coach.
I think he's a good coach too.
O'Connell from fucking
Yes,
Minnesota.
I
That's
love
a good
him.
coach. He's
Yeah,
a
where
great
did he
coach.
come from?
He's part of that tree, I
he's part of
think.
the tree too.
I love him. To me, that's the best one because he's the only one that's faced adversity and done well. Like everyone was on McDaniel. McDaniel's 1-10 against winning teams with
Yeah.
elite offensive talent. Elite.
He's a fun guy.
He's funny.
right?
He ain't
Like,
good. I'm telling you right now, he's not.
So Kevin O'Connell, quarterbacks coach with Cleveland in 2015. Special projects with the Niners in 2016. Redskins 2017. Redskins 2018, 19. Rams 20. Okay, so he's McVay.
He's McVay tree. Okay. McVay's the only one to win a Super Bowl from all these young guys, right? Or is that incorrect?
to win.
Yeah.
I think,
go.
think you're right. Well, no, Shanahan's been.
That's
Oh, you
true.
mean
He's
been twice,
He's
yeah.
been twice.
he hasn't won.
Then Zach Taylor went to 1.
Yeah.
If I had to handicap it, Ben Johnson's my number one, but
Of
he's
course,
everybody's number
one. So
He's
unless you're
gonna-
rolling out more money than everyone and full control, Ben Johnson's not coming here. I think we need to accept that.
I could see him doing that, though. I could see him offering that.
That goes on Loomis, relinquishing control.
But
if he does, I think we could get a big candidate like that. But
Man, if Loomis really wants to solidify his Hall of Fame case, which I don't think he has one right now, but if he really wants to push that, fucking go get someone like Ben Johnson. Here,
look, he
do what
wants to
you
go to the
need.
Hall of Fame. He needs another Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'll just be honest. One Super Bowl is not getting it done.
Yeah.
But Brian Billick's not going to the Hall of Fame. Right?
Right.
Like, you've got to have sustained success. He has, as fun as it was for us to watch Breeze break a bunch of records, that was half of our Breeze era, was just breaking records. It wasn't winning. Half of it was winning.
Yeah.
And we did
there was
great.
a lot of very mediocre times.
So my top two: Ben Johnson, Brian Flores. That's one of those two.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm fine with either of those.
Yeah.
My thing is, the only reason, nothing against Eric Glenn, I want a different vision because
No, I understand that. I get that.
Yeah, I think
it's been 20 plus
I think
years.
Flores is your way of achieving that.
Yeah.
Stop pining for the chick that dumped you 5 years ago. It's move on.
Yeah. The thing is, I think Flores has passed all that litigation stuff.
I think
That
that
brings some
Sean,
baggage.
real quick,
I'm not
before
worried
we-
about that.
Before we
Yeah.
wrap up, Sean going to the Broncos is him trying to solidify his legacy.
Yeah,
Okay,
of course.
he could have stayed here
That's
and
fine.
ridden
Though.
this out.
That's fine. Yeah.
Again, I have no problem with
Yeah.
it. Loomis needs to find another way to solidify his legacy if he's going to have any chance at that. To me, Sean's probably in the Hall of Fame. Do I think he deserves it yet? Probably not. If he just goes on to be decent with Denver for 5 years, he deserves it.
The thing,
For sure.
If Loomis gracefully finds a way to let somebody else take over as general manager, he's in an executive role, and the organization pulls off a Super Bowl while he's in that
100%.
role, he will be connected to that
Yes,
next Super Bowl. So
without
it's like,
a doubt.
You know, your legacy won't be tarnished just because the next one comes without you being officially the GM. You know, so like, if he could just understand, like, get that, then
Yeah.
The thing is, he needs to make it 10, 12 more years as in administration in the NFL for the
Right.
legacy part to
Right.
build that resume to match up against those guys that are in the Hall of Fame. There aren't that many in the Hall of Fame. There really aren't.
No.
There might be 20.
Yeah.
I'd have to look that up, but like you know, we all know Jim Finks went in, but Jim Finks was a lifetime
he
NFL
did
guy.
with multiple franchises.
Bears.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean,
Vikings, us.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Sustained, you know, building winners. He made us from terrible into playoff teams.
Yeah, he may have done the best GM job of all time.
Yeah.
By taking what
We were the Panthers. We were the Panthers.
into a relevant franchise.
Right.
You know.
So that's a very hard thing to get there, and you need to have a pretty packed resume to make it. And one Super Bowl doesn't get you that nod. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
That's
I
all
agree.
Well, I mean, that's all I got.
That's
One
all
more
I got.
cheers to step one of the.
And that's what it is. It's a step one.
It's a step. It's a step in the right direction. It's a step.
Yeah.
I didn't think they had the balls. I didn't think Miss Benson had the balls to take it.
We
we're
all
not,
wanted
we're not
it.
telling people that, you know, you shouldn't be excited that we did it. Of course you should. Like,
Just don't think we're in good shape now. Don't think the problem's
It's
fixed.
not the fix.
We are not in good shape.
It had to be
It is
done.
a step in the right direction, though.
All right. And this is
Look, this franchise is in bad shape.
and this is from a football perspective. Obviously, these are real people and everything, and only the best for Dennis Allen as a person. But for a football
I'll
standpoint,
tell you this: he's about to get a great DC job for sure.
But from a football standpoint, it had to be done for us.
Yeah.
it had to be done.
And it's time for him to move on.
I don't feel bad for him at all because he signed a big fat contract and he's going to get every penny of that contract. So
He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. Yeah.
Luckily, it wasn't that fat. But
it was enough, though.
he got 2 chances at head coach.
He
That's
got
more
his
than anyone
chance.
can ask
He
for.
got his chance.
He got to go to the
He
Raiders.
got 2 chances.
He got another chance here. Probably the only place that would have given a chance that year. He's going to go get a multi-million-dollar DC job next year for sure. You can bank on it. He's going to be in the league for the next 15, 20 years as
He's
a
still
DC.
respected as a defensive coach.
He's a good defensive coach. I'm not taking anything away from him. He does not belong in the Saints Hall of Fame, Jeff Duncan. Sorry, disagree completely.
Yeah.
That was the
yeah.
worst time tweet too. It's like,
And
I mean, I get
Read
it.
the room. Read
you
the
know.
room.
Yeah, and there's no case to be made even as this calms down. The DC for a pretty good run. I mean, he wasn't the DC in 09. So,
No, he wasn't.
So
Everything
what are we
he did as a
talking
head coach
Defensive backs,
undid
I think
everything
he
he
was,
did as a defensive coordinator.
correct. So that's a crazy thing to say for him to be in the Hall. But he is a good defensive coach. He's going to get a job. He's going to be fine. He's going to be in the league for the next 15, 20 years for sure. He's that good.
And guess what? We don't have to talk about him anymore.
That's right.
Yeah, fired. We're gonna have to take the shirts down.
Fuck that. Leave him up, man.
We're gonna add a D.
Add a D.
Add
Yeah,
D.
fired.
Fired. DA. We still have the Fire Mickey Loomis shirts and the more subtle one. Shop.20to3podcast.com is your link for that.
There you go.
But yeah, I don't have anything else.
Me neither.
I'm good. I'm tapped out on this one.
Oh, real quick, we got none of the picks right from last week, so we're all stuck. We got a big fat zero.
Oh, yeah. So no MVP on offense, no MVP on defense because we lost to the Panthers.
And we all picked us to
And we
win.
all picked the Saints, so 0 points for everybody. We stay at 6, 8, and 3. So
Who's got 3?
Me.
Here we go. And with that, we're going to wrap up this episode. Thank you for listening to the 28-3 podcast. Who dat?
What a comeback!